Hello, we are now down to day 11. So, what did my true love bring to me on the 11th day of Christmas? 11 pipers piping. Well, I don't have any pipers, but I can do some piping. So I'm going to do some gluten-free eclairs. So here it's a little bit, have to be a little bit quick because it has to be done on the stove to make the choux pastry. It's not that hard. It seems like it, but it's not. So just bear with me. So in the pan here, I've got 1.5 cups of milk. You can use water if you like. And here I've got 85 grams of butter. Again, it can be lactose-free butter. You could probably use ghee, but I don't know. You could try using with the other non-dairy versions. I haven't done that yet. So if you do, you can always let me know how you go with that. So what we have to do here with the milk and the butter is, apart from the butter melting, we've got to make sure that it comes to the boil. And once it's come to the boil, that's where we add in our gluten-free flour. And with that, we have to then be quick to stir it in, because what we're trying to do is to cook off the flour. And then once the flour's all mixed in, then we add in our eggs. And with this recipe, it's 5 to 6 eggs. So you just put in 4 and see how you go, because it has to be of a certain consistency. If you add too much, it'll be too runny and you won't be able to pipe it out. So it has to be a sort of firmish type of dough. So when you're doing this, make sure you've got your eggs nearby, you've got your flour that you've sifted. So once the milk and the butter have boiled, you're ready to go. And you don't have to be going around searching for your other bits that you need. Here, the water, so here the milk with the butter has just started to boil. Just give it a few more minutes so you see a few more bubbles coming up. There we go, so here we go. Just pour it in, stir, stir, stir. As you can see, it sort of forms into a ball like that. But that's okay, that's how it should be. So now you just, and it's kind of got like a rubbery look, you can see there. So now for this part, it's easy to do it with a wooden spoon. And remember, because it's gluten-free, use your gluten-free one. And so here we're going to add the eggs one by one. And it may look like it's not going in, but it will incorporate. You just got to keep beating and mixing. It's a bit of an arm workout. Add in the next egg. I'll come back and show you what it looks like once I've reached the consistency that I want. Okay, here are the eclairs. How good do they look? Now, what I need to do before I start to cool them off, you need to just pierce a little hole in them to let the steam out so they stay crispy. After all that work that you've done, you don't want them to go soggy. So once they're cooled down, I'll come back and show you when they're all done. But in the meantime, we'll make a passion fruit custard to fill the eclairs, and then we're covering them with some lovely white chocolate, and then making a passion fruit icing just to drizzle over the top. See you soon. Okay, so here we are warming up my milk. Now you can use a vanilla pod, a vanilla bean, so You just get one, cut it in half, plonk it in the milk. You can scrape out the seeds as well, but I don't have any, so I'm just going to use vanilla extract, not essence. Extract is more pure, or you can use a vanilla paste that comes in a little jar, so that's about a teaspoon of that, and here it's about the same, about a teaspoon of vanilla. So we just got to be a little bit patient and let it rise to a simmer. Also with this, you could use lactose-free milk. You could use maybe oat milk, rice milk, possibly soy milk, depend on how you like the flavour, as a substitute for the milk. But generally custard, you're using the milk with the eggs. So now we take the milk over and pour it into our egg mixture. All right, just remember before you pour your milk in, if you've used a vanilla bean, pluck it out and set it aside. And what you can do with that is then you just let it dry, pat it dry, let it dry completely, and if you want you can then stick it in with your white sugar, and then the white sugar will take on some of the smell and the taste of the vanilla. So now here, and depending on the surface that you've got, maybe put a tea towel on the bottom of your bowl so that the bowl doesn't spin around as you're beating in the milk. Just got to keep beating. Make sure everything's nicely mixed in. And then what we do is we pour that back into the saucepan, take it back over to the stove, and then we keep cooking it until it starts to thicken up, and then you've got your custard. So here we're back at the stove, got it on a low heat, and just keep stirring for about 2 to 3 minutes until you start to see your liquids start to thicken up.
This is how your custard should look after it's thickened up. When you put your custard into a bowl, make sure that you cover it completely with Glad wrap going down into the edges to prevent a skim from forming.
Okay, so now it's time to fill the eclairs. So here you can see mine is cooled, and when I pour the wrap, there's no skin or film on the top. So I'm just going to put my custard into a piping bag. Again, if you don't have one, just put it into a plastic bag. Maybe a Ziploc bag, because then you can seal it off nicely. And then you just squeeze it all into a corner, and then just snip off the end. Sort of make it a fairly large opening, because you want to be able to get a lot of custard coming out in one go. But in saying that, you need to be careful that you don't put too much. You don't want to break your eclairs. Before we proceed with that, we need to melt 200 grams of white chocolate. And here I'm using, it's an organic white chocolate. And this one's also guaranteeing that there's no gluten in there at all, to keep up with the gluten-free eclairs. So to this, we need to add 1 tablespoon of olive oil, So what we're going to do is going to melt the chocolate, and you want to keep it sort of at a softer consistency, so then when we dip our eclairs into it, it'll coat it nicely, and the chocolate won't start to cool down and harden up really quick. So we're going to do that bain-marie. So all I do is put this over a pot of boiling water and just let it melt, and then just stir and make sure that all of the chocolate has melted. And when that's done, we're ready to then cover the eclairs. So with the eclairs, just on the side, cut them in half, and then just fill with that lovely custard that you've just made. And just put them on a tray. Well, I'll keep filling these, and then I'll come back to show you how to finish decorating them. I couldn't find any fresh passion fruit, so I've just bought a tin of passion fruit pulp, and you just have to strain it to get the juice, because you need it's a tablespoon of juice that we then mix in with the icing sugar. Oh, that was perfect. And then you just mix it all in with the icing sugar, and you'll soon start to see the icing sugar sort of melt. Then you mix it all in nicely, and there you've got it's a fairly sort of runny consistency, because then what you do is, once the chocolate's melted, we then dip the eclair so the top is coated, and then sort of with the whisk sort of just drizzle along the top. And then if you want to get fancy with the toothpick, you use it to swirl it, to mix it in, so it gives it a bit more of a marbled effect. So I'm just going to check the chocolate and see how that's going. Alright, so with a palette knife, I've just been spooning over the melted chocolate over the eclairs carefully, and then just putting it on a tray lined with baking paper, because then later we're going to be drizzling over the passion fruit icing once the chocolate has set a little bit more. And I've just also kept my saucepan with water on boiling, just in case if it starts to cool down too much, so then you can sort of go in and melt your chocolate again. But I think that's it, I'm done. So now it's just a matter of sitting and waiting for a little bit for it to set a bit more, so we can drizzle over the other icing sugar. Alright, here are the eclairs done. 11 pipers piping. I don't know about you, but I prefer these pipers. Enjoy.